One of the Mariners' top prospects may be changing positions, question mark. Joe and I are going to talk about what that means for this player and if it makes sense for the Mariners to make that move. We're then going to give you guys our FanDuel favorites and talk about the Ryan Helsley trade that, or I'm sorry, signing. Whoa. A lot of people wanted the Mariners to sign Ryan Helsley. Joe and I will talk about the 2-year, $28 million deal that he inked with the Orioles, and we'll wrap it all up by talking about a crazy claim from a Toronto Blue Jays account, and we're going to debunk it. Just real easy. We're just going to debunk it. This is Mythbusters, baby. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 254 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network and presented by FanDuel. And this is the Jeff episode of the podcast. No, not my father. Jeff that I met at work today, who watches the channel. So big shout out to you, Jeff. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. And I hope you found whatever it was you were looking for. I don't remember right now, but hope you found it. I am here with Joe, not Jeff.
Not
Joe,
Jeff.
how are you?
I've been better, you know. Unlike Colton, I get sick a lot. Colton, known does not get sick very often.
That's right.
So I'm a little under the weather, but that's okay. We move on. We persevere. It was, it didn't happen on Thanksgiving. It happened the day after. So like, we weren't sick during the festivities. But Colton, there are bigger fish to fry than me being sick. No one cares, right? What we do care about is how the top. I know you care. Okay. Thank you so much. The top prospects in the Mariners organization. There's a lot that are kind of clogged up in the middle of the infield. It feels like and people trying to project what the roster will look like in 2028 or 2029. There's only a couple spots that Cole Young, Felon Celestin, Colt Emerson, eventually Nicky Becker can fill. And the guy that I famously did not say, and that's Michael Arroyo, one of the highest hit tools in the entire organization. One where if he hits, you put him wherever you want and you just let him hit and you hope the defense figures itself out. I think this opinion has been stated for a long time, I think by Colby on the Locked On Mariners podcast, that if he just goes to the outfield, you could probably figure something out with Michael Arroyo long-term and how he fits into the Mariners organization. You could say the same thing about Harry Ford. But today we're talking about Michael Arroyo because in the Colombian Winter League, and this, was brought to social media's attention by at MIKLOP9080, Mike over on Twitter, posted a screenshot of the of Arroyo's Colombian Winter League team, and Michael Arroyo was starting and playing in left field. And with his timeline and how he tracks to maybe make his major league appearance, whether it's a midseason call-up this year, and September call-up this year, or in 2027, where it's probably a bit more likely that he is more so a 2027 call-up. But again, I'm never going to put aside the chance that a guy who has hit at every level and really stepped into his power over the last, 16, 18 months of his professional play, he could hit his way into, making some noise in 2026. I wouldn't put it past him. The bat slowed down a little bit in Arkansas last year when he went up to AA, but we know that Arkansas is a hard park to hit in. Hit 255s, 376 with a 341 slug, a 717 OPS, but I Bleav that was good for like a 120 WRC plus. I need to check. I was looking on Baseball Reference, but Fangraphs usually has better minor league data for the WRC plus. Yeah, so 123 WRC plus in Arkansas last year. Across his entire 2025 season, a 139 WRC plus, 17 home runs. He hit 262, 401, 433. There's a logjam up the middle in the diamond. If he can figure out a way to stand out in a corner outfield spot and not be completely clueless, I like Michael Arroyo's chances for sticking with the club. Potentially, I don't want to say like long term, because he's on a lot of people's, I think, trade list as an expendable piece that, yes, he is a top level prospect. His hit tool is undeniable, but a lot of people in Mariners social spaces, I think, would be okay with trading him for upgrades this season. And I don't know if this is the Mariners doing this or, him as a player wanting to broaden his horizons, or it's maybe just the Colombian Winter League team, and eventually when he's playing for Team Colombia in the WBC, like what that means. But having Arroyo play I mean, it's just one game so far. The Winter League's been 3 games. He started once at second, started once in left. We're, really jumping the gun here. But it's an exciting development just because if we can see more of these homegrown, or I guess, I'll call them homegrown. They're not drafted, but they're developed by the Mariners. These types of prospects succeed. I think that helps continue to shift the narrative around the Mariners not being able to develop hitters. And Arroyo, one of the best hitters in the system, it seems like, at least as far as tools are considered, I would be okay with him staying a Mariner pretty, long term and figuring out a spot where he can play a couple games at second base, but also go into the outfield when, if need be.
A la Ketel Marte.
I was saying, there's a lot of similarities there.
A lot of similarities there. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, you mentioned it's only been one game, so we don't want to read too far into it. But at the same time, let's just assume for a moment that this was the Mariners saying, hey, man, we want you to try some outfield, whatever. We want to get you some more positional versatility because, frankly, let's say the Mariners, re-sign Jorge Polanco. They got Cole Young. They have Ryan Bliss. They have guys, Leo Rivas. They have guys at the major league level already in the spot that Arroyo plays. So it's all right, well, you're logjam. Sorry, buddy. But if you can move him to the outfield, does that mean, let's say Victor struggles? Could we see him come up to, be a platoon with either Luke Raley or Dominic Canzone? Absolutely. Let's say the Mariners decide to move on from Randy. Do they then go to Michael Arroyo as that right-handed option in left field? That just opens up so many possibilities, and it makes him so much more impactful of a piece for the Mariners. Because, again, you talked about it quite a bit there. The Mariners have so many guys up the middle, but you look for their outfield prospects, and they're kind of non-existent. Right? I mean, you got guys like Spencer Packard, you got Ty Pete,
Corbin Dickerson, erasure.
Corbin, well, he's not going to help anytime soon. Corbin Dickerson, it's fine, but Michael Arroyo is a top 100 prospect on most boards, and having him go play an outfield, a corner spot, if he can just be Randy Arozarena defensively out there, it's not great. But if his bat continues to play like it has, then we could definitely be seeing, a replacement in the next couple of years with him playing a corner outfield spot. Now, again, you said he struggled in Arkansas, which is true, and a lot of hitters do generally. Yeah, struggled, right?
Yeah.
Compared to what he was. And I'm assuming that he's going to start there again in 2026, at least for a little while. What I do want to note here, looking at his Arkansas numbers, though, in 56 games, he walked 30 times and struck out 39 times, whereas in high A, he struck out 65 times compared to 39 walks. So that strikeout rate did go down for Michael Arroyo in Double A, which is important because you're not necessarily looking. I mean, again, he's had a lot of power over the past couple of years, but you're not necessarily looking when you go into Dickie Stevens Ballpark in Arkansas for a guy to be hitting the ball over the wall all the time. You're looking for, gap to gap power. And he had that. He had 10 doubles in his time in Arkansas. So if there was ever a time to have a player move to a different position and just give it a shot, it's in a situation like this, the Columbia Winter League, where the games obviously are very important. Don't get me wrong, too, the Colombian teams and whatnot.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, from an MLB perspective, they don't, they're not affecting your record in 2026. Whereas he's getting really valuable developmental time going into next season. Dude, Michael Arroyo has not stopped playing baseball,
dude,
for the last 2 years.
Just grinding it out.
Bro plays a full season. He goes to the Winter League, plays that, comes back spring training into the season. And then this coming year, it's going to be the full season into the Colombian Winter League, into the WBC, into spring training, into the regular season. Listen, I mean, rest and recovery, I think, are very important for a pro athlete. So I'll be interested to see kind of how the Mariners mitigate that. But, I mean, dude's a baller. He's just going out there every single day and playing the game that he loves, and you got to respect that.
Arroyo's, I think, a prospect that people, I don't know, say they underrated him for a long time, but he wasn't really in the same conversations for a while towards the end of 2023, where it's where is he going to kind of adjust and shoot up ranks? And then in 2024, he kind of really, really took off for the most part. But he's also been a guy that's been thrown around in trades left and right. And whether or not the Mariners hold on to him this offseason, is yet to be seen. But I wouldn't be surprised if I put him in a trade package for a high quality reliever at some point during the last handful of off seasons, the last handful of deadlines. And realistically, last deadline, I probably would have put him in a package for Ryan Helsley. Going back to the Cardinals, I think could have made a decent amount of sense with where their rebuild was kind of heading. And although that didn't happen, the Mariners also didn't sign Ryan Helsley this offseason. Helsley going to the Baltimore Orioles for a 2-year, $28 million contract. I didn't have it. I don't know if you had the Orioles there. I don't remember where we had him going, because when I think about fits for the closer archetype relievers in this offseason, I didn't think about Baltimore necessarily, just in the idea of like, maybe it was just Ryan Helsley. I don't remember who I want to say I had like Luke Weaver going there or something. I don't remember, but I didn't have Helsley. And MLB Trade Rumors had their 4 writers predict a 2-year, $24 million contract. There is a 1-year like option, like an option after the first year where Helsley can test the market again if he so chooses or gets into a better situation. But it's a good get for Baltimore if he's able to get back to where he was pre getting traded to the Mets, because he was very, very bad post deadline after the Mets acquired him. And I guess bad for his standards, but like you look at, a guy who had a 2.04 ERA in 2024, it balloons to a 2.0 or it balloons to a 4.50. He had a 7.2 ERA in his time pitching for the Mets. Like, it's just bad. It's just flat out bad. And if you would have asked anybody, the Mets, they got a good closer here, they would have said absolutely. Nobody would have bet that his ERA would have been above 7 post getting traded. But quickly, a word from FanDuel.
Thank you to FanDuel for being a sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. The FanDuel Sportsbook, the home of the same game parlay, is your go-to destination for online sports gambling this season. Obviously, the baseball season's over, but the NBA is in full swing. The NFL's in full swing. You've got college football, you got hockey, you got college basketball. There's a variety of different sports that you can bet on over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And right now, if you bet $5, you could get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Remember to do it responsibly. And now back to the podcast.
It's honestly a really good thing, Joe, that we weren't able to bet on this, because neither of us had Ryan Helsley going to the Orioles. I had him going to your Seattle Mariners.
Naturally.
And you had him going to the Yankees. So interesting. Also, just, gonna put it out there. I have gotten 4 picks, right? You've only gotten 2. So
I don't know ball.
I'm ranked 250th. You're ranked 2066th. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Right where I want to be. Don't call it a comeback.
But nonetheless, I ranked him, or I had him to the Mariners for a reason. And it's because the Mariners do need to go out there and get a high leverage reliever of some kind. Now, again, this was a 2-year, $28 million contract. We don't necessarily know how that's broken down yet as of recording this video. We do know that there is an opt-out for Ryan Helsley after the first season. So, contract-wise, does it make sense for the Mariners to go out there and spend $14 million on a guy who's not going to be your closer? I don't know, right? But the whole point was the Mariners need to go out there and get a high-leverage reliever of some kind. From Helsley's point of view, I think I'm like Mike Tyson.
Yeah, literally.
From Ryan Helsley's point of view, he probably wanted to go somewhere and close and build up that stock again. And going to Baltimore, I mean, it makes sense. It's a team that has kind of been searching a little bit over the past couple of years after, Yennier Cano and Felix Bautista. Both of them either had surgeries, have been injured, what have you, or just not been good. Sino Perez was closing for them for a little while. Like, they've been kind of searching for it. Bringing Ryan Helsley bringing Ryan Helsley there, it makes a lot of sense. And there was talk about him potentially being a starter during the offseason, like how teams were going to sign him. You didn't see that?
No.
Teams were considering him as a starting pitcher. But he wanted to be a reliever, obviously be a closer. Go look it up right now while I'm talking.
I believe you. I mean, I'm looking back. The last time he started a game was in 2019, so it's not so far removed. I mean, it's the Griffin Jacks pipeline where the Rays are going to probably try and stretch him out. I was just surprised. I didn't hear about that, so that's why I made the face. Okay.
Yeah. So for him to sign this deal, and again, we're assuming he's going to be a closer. I guess they could make him a starter. They probably haven't said, but for the Mariners specifically, this is the kind of move that they need to go out there and make. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be, $14 million a year. I mean, assuming the Mariners have what, like $20 million left to play with or so this offseason, you can't go out there and spend $14 million on a reliever unless you're going to trade some salary some way, somehow. When you're thinking of other relief, I mean, is Yennier Cano now more available?
Yeah.
Like, could the Mariners go get Yennier Cano now that the Orioles have Helsley in the fold? If you can go get Yennier Cano or Felix Bautista, like, why don't you? You know what I mean? And it's a situation where maybe the Orioles are going to be, I think what they're looking for now is a top of the line starting pitcher. That's what we've heard anyway. And I mean, is Luis Castillo that guy? Like, could he be? I don't know. But you have to go out there and get some sort of leverage reliever. And I think that Helsley made a whole lot of sense, but I don't blame him for wanting to go and close.
Yeah, Bautista's he had labrum surgery in August. I don't know what that puts his timeline as far as pitching in 2026 as.
A while. Yeah.
So I would imagine he's probably not pitching in 2026. I don't know if that immediately makes the Orioles a trade destination or a trade partner for a reliever necessarily. But the lower end arms are guys that you could buy low on. Like, I think Cano makes a lot of sense as a buy low situation because he was really good, did not have a great year last year. But if I'm the Orioles, I'm probably not looking to trade any of my existing major league talent to try and have some sort of bounce back season in 2026 because you met some pretty high highs in 24 and then you kind of fell flat on their face in 2025. I'm on Trade Rumors top 50 and like Helsley is the 36th ranked reliever. Sorry, just player.
Oh, whoa.
Disrespectful.
Whoa.
36th ranked player in the top 50. The next highest that's like a strict reliever is Raisel Iglesias, and he went back to Atlanta, what was it, 1 year 18?
I think something like that.
And they had him at 2 years 26. Helsley was 2 years 24 on this. So like if we're thinking, I don't think the Mariners go higher than a Helsley this offseason as far as free agency. They could still make a pretty big trade for a high-end reliever like a Seth Halverson, like, someone, I'm just kidding. But I think a trade maybe is more suitable for where they'd like to spend because if it's a high-end reliever that they're trading for, it's likely a guy that's probably controllable. And yes, that's probably going to be really expensive, but I don't see them wanting to spend more than like $8 million a year on a reliever. That just seems like a little out of their...
How much they're paying Andres Munoz.
Yeah, it's like a little out of their comfort zone. Like, do they want to go pay a guy that much money who's not even going to close games with them? Yes, the bridge guys to the closer are very important. We saw how important Edward Bizardo was for this team in 2025, just based on he rose to the occasion and had himself a phenomenal year. Gabe Spire obviously had a great year. Matt Brash had a great year, but you could always use more arms that get you to the ninth inning with Munoz with the lead. And looking at the guys after Helsley, immediately you have Kyle Finnegan at 40th, 2 years, 20 million. Luke Weaver, 2 years, 18. Tyler Rogers, 2 years, 18. Sir Anthony Dominguez, 2 years, 18. Pete Fairbanks, 2 years, 18. Like, there's a lot of those guys in that range that it might be a little rich for what I expect the Mariners to do, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're having conversations about, with Naylor only getting 11 million, what does that mean for their budget? If they don't re-sign Polo, maybe they go a cheaper option at second base and go a higher option in the bullpen. It's always something to consider, and it's still early on in the offseason. I mean, we are hello December. We're in December as this episode is released, and we're getting there, but things have been kind of slowly churning along. There hasn't been a ton of big moves going on. First of all, let me throw this out there. I didn't know Phil Maton had already signed until I saw something about it. I didn't see it. And then I saw 3 days later, Phil Maton. I'm like, oh, okay.
Tough.
You know what I mean? Like,
who did he sign with again?
Exactly.
I think it was the
Cubs.
Remember. That sounds right. Yeah. I think you're right. I think it was the Cubs.
But it's like, how did I not see this?
of all people. It's Phil Maton.
2 years, $14.5 million with a club option for 2028. So it's like, would you have paid Phil Maton $7 million a year? I think I probably would have. I mean, I wanted to trade for him pretty badly at the deadline. I think on deadline stream day, when we were sitting there complaining that the Mariners didn't have another leverage arm and we were clowned for it, hindsight 2020, I was pissed when the Rangers got Maton because I was like, we could outbid for that. But
absolutely.
I digress. The Mariners are still in the arm for a high leverage in the market for a high leverage arm this offseason, whether it be free agency or trade. I just think this gives us a lens on what the market could be as like the first like big domino to fall. Is like Helsley's a pretty big name as far as the reliever market's concerned. Phil Maton's not even on the top 50 list, and Maton's getting $7 million a year.
Yeah. True.
People outside of the top 50, of course, what does that mean? It's, these subjective rankings, but
especially with relievers. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, is Phil Maton actually worse than Emilio Pagan? Potentially, but one could have a 250 ERA plus next year and one could have an 80 ERA plus next year because relievers can be so volatile in that way.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation. And in terms of like when things are going to start moving, because again, I would love to sign Pete Fairbanks. I think he wants to go close somewhere. Like a lot of these guys are going to want to go close, but in terms of when things are going to start moving, I think the Mariners are probably waiting until they kind of have a better idea of what's going on with Jorge Polanco. I think that now that Naylor is back with the team, I think that Jorge Polanco is the number one priority for this team. And they want to know how much money they're going to have to allocate to that, because that is going to greatly change their offseason. And two, the winter meetings start a week from today that this episode is releasing. So, obviously we've seen it kind of slow down in years past of like how much happens at the winter meetings, but you get all the GMs together in one place. I mean, Trader Jerry might finally make a trade with the Rockies to get Seth.
Okay.
He might finally make a trade this offseason to go get a reliever. And again, I don't necessarily have anyone on the top of my mind. I should probably start looking into that because I do want to make like a video similar to what I did last year of like a trade with each team. But in terms of like who's going to be available, I'm not really sure who fits that bill. But the winter meetings are a really good spot for something like that to happen. And while we have to wait for the winter meetings for a lot of other things, Dylan Cease already signed for 7 years, $210 million, Joe. And there was a tweet, and you guys all know how I feel about Dylan Cease. If you guys watched last week's episode, he sucks. All right. He's a bad pitcher. And there was a tweet. I don't know who it was from.
Blue Hardy Muse.
Blue Hardy Muse.
No, Flu. Sure. Mason
Flu Hardy. Flu Hardy.
Yeah.
Got it. Basically saying there's an argument to be made that Dylan Cease is the best pitcher in the American League.
Right-handed pitcher
in the American League. Listen, I don't know what they're smoking up in Canada, but Dylan Cease is bad, man. He had a 1.1 or a 1.1 WAR in 2025 with a 4.55 ERA. And someone mentioned, funny, how about Brian Wu, right? As a better right-handed pitcher. You compare them and their year in 2025, Brian Wu, 4.2 WAR, Dylan Cease, 1.1. I shouldn't even have to read further, but I'm going to. Brian Wu, a 2.94 ERA compared to Dylan Cease's 4.55. Literally a run and a half better. How can you be the best pitcher in the American League if
right-handed
you
pitcher
have those? Sorry, the right-handed pitcher. How is that possible? That you are the best right-handed pitcher in the American League with a 9.8 walk percentage, by the way. How is that possible when you have a 4.55 ERA, Joe?
Because he was once a Cy Young 2, the 180 ERA plus. He struck out over 200 batters over the last, I think, 4 or 5 seasons. I believe it's the last 5. I don't think Dylan Cease is the best right-handed pitcher in the American League, nor do I think Brian Wu is. I think it goes to Hunter Brown.
Yep.
But I would rank Brian Wu above Dylan Cease. But those are like the top 3, I think. as far as right-handed pitchers are concerned, of the starters in the American League. If you want to count Jacob deGrom, if he can stay healthy, sure. We don't know year in and year out what you're going to get out of
Where is Garrett Cole on that list after the injury?
Exactly. Like there's a lot of, different factors that kind of culminate here, but I will say we are just feeding into like the engagement farming. It is just rage baiting kind of stuff, and like you have to know that's exactly what that tweet is doing. It has over 900,000 views on the platform. Like it succeeded in precisely what it wanted to do, which was get people to be angry and spew, arguments about it. And whether or not you think Dylan Cease is better than Colton is proposing, I happen to think Dylan Cease is better than what Colton says, although I would pay Logan Gilbert more money than Dylan Cease, and then Colton said he wouldn't last episode. It's weird. It's a little weird how that kind of shakes out, but I'm kidding. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
That's right-handed Marco Gonzalez to you, all right?
Dylan Cease. How is much different pitchers, but bringing in Dylan Cease back to the American League. I mean, there is a hierarchy of the left-handed pitchers with Tarek Skubal, should he stay? Obviously, Garrett Crochet in Boston. You have Max Fried in New York. I mean, even like, is Carlos Rodon the next best lefty? Like off the top of my head, I don't know if there's a different one. Like if Cole Reagans comes back to life,
right?
That could be an option. I mean, Cade Anderson's taking over the world next year.
There, man.
I mean, listen, Dylan Cease might not even be the best right-hander on his team with Trey Yesavage pitching. I don't know. Like they're, we're just pouring gas on the fire at this point. But the conversation about, who would you want for a full 162? Who would you rather have make 32 starts for your team in 2026 as a right-handed pitcher? Dylan Cease or a flurry of other right-handers? I mean, there's a couple that I'm taking over Dylan Cease, but it's not many. But I will say, when you look at the Mariners pitching staff, I'm taking Bryan Woo over Dylan Cease. Truth be told, I would. Logan Gilbert, I think, is next in line. And I think you could make an argument, especially with how little he pitched compared to previous years. And, if his arm is all that much healthier, maybe he's throwing 102 next year for all I know. Logan's pumping gas. Like he's rearing back, and his extension percentile is now 101 on Baseball Savant. He is past the graph
extra
now.
Credit.
He gets
crazy.
Extra credit for how much extension he's getting. But it is just kind of like a fun conversation. If you think Dylan Cease is better than Bryan Woo, so be it. I doubt anybody watching this does, though, because hello, we're Mariners fans. But it is just kind of like a fun conversation to think about, like the hierarchy of arms in the American League.
Yeah, I mean, over the next 7 years, I'm taking Logan Gilbert over Dylan Cease. Just saying.
Sure.
Over the next 7 years. You said that tweet had 900,000 views.
I'm not kidding. There's an argument to be made that Dylan Cease is the best right-handed pitcher in the AL, but y'all aren't ready for that. 134 reposts, 425 likes, 420 comments, 910,000 views.
God, I wish our Twitter account wasn't hacked. I would tweet same thing.
Save us, save us.
I would tweet the same thing about Bryan Woo. Word for word, but instead of Dylan Cease, it's Bryan Woo, just for fun. Yeah. I love rage baiting people on Twitter. If you guys follow us on Twitter, can you guys just go at the Mariner Mojo account and just ask them to give us our account back? Why not? Like, well, we're getting desperate over here, just real quick, because X isn't helping us. But yeah, it's a situation that I would have taken full advantage of, but unfortunately, Joe, I cannot. But you guys could take advantage of this podcast by liking it and subscribing to the channel and sending tweets to the Mariner Mojo Twitter account saying, give us our account back. We appreciate you guys watching episode 254 of the Hit It Here podcast presented by FanDuel, and go Mariners.